it's Karen from Simply Said with Karen, and today I have a technique for you that I'm going to demonstrate, and it's called the black ice technique. And you use this technique on this is copper foil, but you can use it on other foils as well. You can use it on the champagne foil or the silver or the gold, and you're going to get a different effect depending on which piece of foil paper you choose to use. What you have to remember though when you're handling foil is not to get your fingers on the front of the piece, as it will collect your fingerprints and damage the paper. We're going to use Stays On ink to get this effect. Stays On ink is a pigment ink, and it's good to use on things that are non-porous, like the foil. And when you do this technique, what you do is you take your pad, we're going to go direct to the paper, and just take it and drag it down. Turn your piece, put the scrap paper back on, hold it down really good so it doesn't slip, and then drag it down again. While we're still doing this, and we're getting our fingers dirty anyways, take your pad and just brush the sides of the foil. This will just add to the blackness and make it stand out a little bit. Okay, I'm going to go and dry this with the heat tool, as it would take a little while for it to dry, and I want to be able to finish this video for you. Now that it's dry, I'm going to take the Versamark, and again we're going to cover the front of it with the Versamark, but we're not going to stamp it in blocks because otherwise it would show the lines. So we're just going to take it and very lightly, very gently drag it down. Turn it around and make sure you get the whole thing covered. Now we're going to cover it in clear embossing powder. You'll be able to tell if you have it all covered, because you shouldn't have any spots that aren't kind of opaque from the embossing powder. I'm just going to take that now and go over and heat emboss that. Now I've heat embossed that with the heat gun, and the next step is to take an image that you'd like to stamp, and the image is the flowers and the leaves from the Touch of Texture stamp set. So we're going to ink up our stamp with Stays On ink. Make sure it's really covered good. And then we're just going to put it on our copper foil and leave it on there for a tad longer than you might normally with the cardstock, because it takes a while because of the non-porous effect of the copper foil. So just leave it on there for a couple seconds longer. There, we got a really good image. So we're just going to set that aside now, and we're going to finish the rest of the card. And we're going to use the Stamp-A-Wrap, because we're going to stamp on the card base and go down the card base with the lace stamp. I'm going to use crumb cake on crumb cake, And because this stamp is a little wider than the cardstock, which is a regular card base of 5.5 inches by 4.25. So we're going to line it up there. And I'm not using the foam pad that comes with the Stamparatus because the stamp has the foam on the back of it. Ink up your stamp. I love the Stamparatus because you get perfect alignment every time. Now because we're going to go down, I think I'm going to move this over a tad, then we're going to take this plate off and move it down one rung. And you don't have to move your stamp when you're doing this. All you do is you move the plate. So you get really even alignment. It's good for any kind of background that you want to stamp on your cardstock. And the nice part about it is if you don't get sufficient ink on your stamp, then you can re-stamp it, because it's always going to be in the right place. Now these magnets are very strong, and I have put them together and struggled to get them apart, which I did. So be very careful when you're using them. The other thing is that if someone has a pacemaker, they shouldn't use the magnetics with this board. Okay, we'll do one more, and I'm going to move this one down here. Not that there's going to be much there. So this is all done, and you can see how easy that was, and it's all placed evenly down the card front. The next thing, we have a piece of Share What You Love designer series paper. I'm going to use a piece that is graphic with the crumb cake, and this piece is 4 by 3 3/4. And again, we're going to just take our stays on and do the direct to paper on all the edges. And depending on when's the last time you inked up your stamp, you might get a little bit more ink than you want, so just be careful about that. So that's done. I'm going to set that aside for a minute, and we're going to put our foil and mount that onto a piece of crumb cake, which is 2 7/8 by 3 3/8. And again, I'm going to do direct to paper down the edges. Just going to take this paper here and just kind of smush it out a bit, because I got a little bit more that I wanted to on the sides. Now we can just attach our copper foil, and I'm going to use the multi-purpose liquid glue. This is my go-to glue. Attach it to the crumb cake. I've cut this so that there is just a narrow mat. Now take a piece of lace, and the lace is about 4 inches long. So we're just going to put it at the bottom here. And I'm using tear and tape to hold it. Just put it across the bottom. And take a piece of baker's twine. Just stick it under there and gather up your lace. Tie a knot. Make sure it's tight and tie a bow. Trim the ends. And I think I need a sharper pair of scissors for this. But trim the ends. Now we're going to attach the designer series paper to the front of the card, and just always check to make sure you got it on the right side, because not too long ago I didn't, and I had to redo it, my card. So we're just going to attach it with the multi-purpose glue. Sometimes with the Share What You Love paper, it's really hard to decide which side you want to use, because it's so beautiful on the other side as well. And just angle it. And it's just for added interest. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. And now we're ready to put our copper foil using our black ice technique. And we'll just put that one straight. And there's your card. It's effective. I didn't put a sentiment on that, so you can choose whether or not you want to or don't want to. It's entirely up to you. This is another card that I did, and I used the champagne for this one. And I did use the label letters and stamp them in green. This is the mossy meadow. And cut them out with the scissors and just attach them to the front. So you can add that if you would like. I did add a doily to here. So it uses the same technique, and it's a little bit different paper that I used. So it's entirely up to you. Just experiment with your stamps, experiment with the different kind of foil papers that you like, and have fun doing it. So thank you for joining me for the black ice technique, and we'll see you again next time. Bye now.